Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be comparing a metal frame gun to a ported one. Now before we continue with the video, I wanted to mention that we are not working with any live ammunition. We're in a safe work environment and this is for educational purposes only. It's no secret that in today's market, ports and comps have taken over in terms of sales and popularity. It seems like every manufacturer out there is releasing something with a port or a comp and everyone's just eating it up. And today we're going to discuss if that's a feature that we should be looking for, especially when we're talking about a concealed carry gun or something you're going to have for home defense. Now, I'm going to give you guys some pros and cons and let you determine on your own if that's the right need for you. The two we're looking at today is going to be the M&P 2.0 metal with a 3.6-inch barrel, and we're comparing it to a CZ-P10C ported. And this one does have a 4-inch barrel, but I chose this for two very specific reasons. One, because out of all of the ported or comp guns I've shot, this to me by far has been the best. And two, because it weighs the same exact amount as the M&P metal. Now, they both come in at 26 ounces, so I felt it would be a more fair comparison to give you guys something similar in weight. Now, when we look at the ports or the comps, whatever you guys want to call them, they're usually going to be up front at the end of the barrel. This one has one huge chunk just got cut out of the barrel in the slide, and that helps with recoil mitigation. Now, you can also get them with 6 or 7 ported or drilled holes through the slide or the barrel, or you can also get something like this Canik MC9 Prime, which is one of my favorites, and this one has a tri-port or 3-port system on the barrel there, as you guys can see. And like I said, really you can find these in any variation, different type of ports. You can find aftermarket compensators that you can thread onto the barrel or whatever. You can find it in a lot of different ways, and it really just depends on your style.
You ain't got no style, mother.
The biggest reason why people go to either a metal frame or a comp or a port on a barrel is very simple. It's for recoil mitigation. But please don't mistake that and go out and get a metal frame or a ported handgun to make you a better shooter. Don't rely on those things. Go out and practice with what you have. Practice makes perfect. So I did want to mention that. But let's go into pros and cons with ports and comp handguns. Now, biggest pros, recoil mitigation. You're also going to get faster follow-up shots, and it's going to feel better in the hand if you have a weak, weak hands or a disability of some sort. But basically, the whole mechanics of the recoil is doing this. But when you have a port on the barrel, those gases are pushing up, and it's pushing you back down quicker to get you back on target faster. So, like I said, biggest pros, faster target acquisition or follow-up shots. You're going to have less felt recoil and muzzle flip, and it's just going to be more comfortable if you have some sort of disability or weaker hands. So those are the biggest pros. Now, as far as cons go, there are quite a few of them, but the biggest con is going to be shearing coming out of the port. When that ammo or barrel travels down the rifle or the rifling and it exits that barrel, some shearing can come out of there and it could potentially hit you in the face, hit you in the arm, or wherever you're exposed. And in a fight that you should have every advantage you can get, it could potentially risk your life or a loved one's life. So that's the biggest downside to that. You never know the distance you're going to need to use a handgun if you ever need to. But why risk it, right? So that's why I think a lot of people steer away from ports and comps, because that could cause an issue for you. It could be a danger for you or anyone else that's nearby from that shearing that comes out of that port. The next one is going to be muzzle flash. You're going to have flames coming out of the ports, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And at nighttime, that could potentially blind you or make it hard for you to see your follow-up shot, even though this is meant to get you back on target quicker. The next thing is going to be the noise level. So with a port and comp, it does make a handgun much louder than one without. And it's something that a lot of people don't really consider. And I hate to really bring it up because that's probably going to be the last thing you're thinking about when you're saving your life or someone else's life. But you also got to think positive and think you're going to see the next day. And you have to think, are you going to keep your hearing the next day or not? So something to also keep in mind. You know what I mean? If you can get something without a port or a comp and reduce those risks, you could. You definitely should. You know what I mean? So I think those are the biggest cons with ports and comps. It's going to be the shearing, the noise level that goes up, and the muzzle flash. Now let's take a look at the metal here. The pros on the metal is going to be not necessarily recoil mitigation, but recoil absorption, which is a very key word here. Like I said, the mechanics of the recoil on this is, that muzzle flip. With a metal frame, you don't really get much of a flip. You get more of a bounce. So it works well together as a whole because the weight is distributed very nicely. It's very well balanced. So it's a lot different and a lot softer to shoot, in my personal opinion. And I really do like how the metal frame feels in the hand. Like I said, you don't get much of a flip. You get more of a up and down as a whole. So that's really, really nice. And that's the biggest con, or I'm sorry, the biggest pro. As far as the cons go, the cons is going to be number one, the price. The price point on a metal frame is going to go up because of the materials. Obviously, they're using are more, high quality and things like that. You're also going to have some rusting issues potentially, depending on where you live and humidity levels and all that sort of thing. Some finishes that could scrape off the metal or steel or whatever. You guys can see I have a little bit of scraping there, and that's just from putting on a light and taking it off literally once. It scraped off some of that, but that's going to happen. And another big con is going to be the weight. So if you're going to be carrying this, that's something to take into consideration. The additional weight. Can you put up with the additional weight depending on how you dress? Sweatpants, basketball shorts, whatever the case is. If you're wearing something lighter, you could potentially not be able to carry it if it's a metal frame or if it weighs too much for you. So that's the biggest drawback when you're thinking about a concealed carry with a metal frame, is going to be the weight. So those are really the only cons that I can really think of between these two. But if you guys can think of any others, please feel free to leave it in the comments and let me know if you use either or if you think about the cons on these and how they've been for you. Now, for me personally, if I had to choose between one or the other, I would go metal 100% of the time. I really love how popular ports and comps have become, but I think as far as how efficient one could be, I think nothing really beats the metal frame. And this has been my first metal frame, so I could be wrong. I could maybe just need some more experience, but I really, really have been enjoying a metal frame. Love how it feels in the hand, how soft it is, how there's no muzzle flip. It's more of, like I said, more of a bounce. And I think that the dangers or the risks are much less than something with a port or a comp. That being said, I would still carry a port or a comp, for me, and that's more of a personal decision. So it's totally up to you. However, if I can avoid that, I totally would. And I'm not one of those people that has to have a port or comp on my handgun. Most of the time, those are more for the range and comparison videos for you guys. But in a real world situation, I would probably stick to bare bones, something without those aesthetics, and go with something with a metal frame. Now, the Canic MC9 Prime, you guys have seen that in my channel quite a bit, and I do carry this. This is in my 945 Industries bag that I carry whenever I'm in sweatpants or basketball shorts, that sort of thing. But as far as a real-time EDC, I go with nothing, not even a light. So it has nothing to do with really the ports. It's just the simplicity of what I like to carry. And you could be the same, depending on your style, like I said, depending on what you like. But I personally would go with the metal frame. I can't wait until we start to see slim lines with metal frames. I know that SIG offers that AXG Legion, and that's a phenomenal deal out. Well, not deal, but it's a great gun out there. It's like $1,200, so it's just ridiculous on the price. And I'm not a huge supporter of SIG, to be completely honest with you guys. But if we could see like a Shield X metal, that would be amazing. If we can get, like a 43X metal, that would be amazing. And again, the weight difference, like I said, this compared to the polymer version is only an ounce and a half more. That's not much. That's like going from a 36 or like a P365 or 43X to, I don't know, like a Hellcat Pro Comp. I mean, it's the weight difference. If it's only going to be an ounce and a half, it's not much. But again, it will determine, or it will depend completely on what they use. If it's metal, aluminum, steel, that will determine how much extra weight is added. But this one has been phenomenal, and so has this one. They both have been great, but just the risks and the downsides, pros and cons. I think when we compare the two, I think the metal frame is going to end up on top. And like I said, I can't wait till we see some carry guns or slimline guns come out with metal frames. Love to see a lot of those come out with some metal frames. But that'll wrap it up for this video, you guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about metal frames and ports and comps on handguns, as specific to concealed carry guns. So let me know in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But if you already have, I appreciate you guys so much. God bless you, and I'll see you on the next video.